Welcome back to the channel. Gaming in the arcade has to be some of my favorite gaming memories from yesteryear. The Switch has made it possible to easily relive those days again. There's a ton of classic arcade goodness on the system via single releases or through the many collections out there. The hybrid console has you covered either way. That all said, there's a ton of modern arcade games that have come out on the system too. There's games from famous names and franchises that are continuing on in modern sequels, or modern games that aim to capture the feel and style of arcade gaming from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Yes, the arcade still very much lives on, so make sure to hang on and subscribe to the channel as I share with you some of my favorite modern arcade games that can be found on the Nintendo Switch. One of my favorite arcade games of all time is Turtles in Time from Konami. It's such a classic. There's some tight gameplay, loads of nods to different parts of the TMT franchise, and of course, excellent 4-player co-op multiplayer play. If you were able to gather 3 other players to play with you, a 4-player session at the arcade cabinet of Turtles in Time was one of the best gaming experiences you could have. For years and years, gamers have been hoping for a proper sequel, and over the years, we have seen some half-hearted tries and attempts, but enter Shredder's Revenge. This game got it right. This beat-em-up has some of the best combat gameplay in the genre, with extensive ways to attack and combo, but still remain easy to pick up and play. It has a bunch of characters to play as that each feel different. It even includes the option to play as April, Casey, and Splinter, in addition to the 4 main turtles. On top of it all, it comes with drop-in and drop-out 6-player co-op play, and that is the cherry on top with the excellent gameplay that just takes this arcade-like beat-em-up to the next level. Yes, this is legit. It checks all the boxes gamers wanted in a modern arcade beat-em-up Turtles game, and it might very well exceed what Turtles in Time was. It is one I highly recommend on any console it is on, but of course, I love it on the Switch. I love racing games, and arcade-like racing games are some of my favorite ones. The Cruis'n series in the arcades were awesome, filled with some great tracks, and some over-the-top racing. Years later, a new entry in the series appeared, Cruis'n Blast, and this one got ported to the Switch. Cruis'n Blast takes the over-the-top racing to the extreme with some utterly ridiculous and insane racing moments, with dinosaurs, tracks that are literally falling apart as you race, and even UFOs. You can even race as a freaking unicorn. This game is not a complex game at all. You gotta brake, gas, and directional stick to move, and that's all you need to know to just enter into some good arcade racing fun. They kept the mechanics simple, and it honestly works better for it. Multiplayer is there too. I remember the 90s arcade machines that would hook up and allow you to race others. Well, there's 4-player split screen play that allows you to relive those days. This game is such a blast. I mean, it is in the name, but it's one of those games that anyone can join in and get enjoyment out of from out of the gate. Another modern arcade racing game on the Switch is Hotshot Racing. Now this one pays tribute to the very early 3D arcade racing games with its look and style. Simple 3D aside, the game is silky smooth, running at 60 FPS. In this game, it's all about mastering the drift in order to get the most optimal times and win those races. That means taking the turns as smooth as you can, catching boost charges, and of course, properly using your boost. This game has a bit more meat on the bone in terms of racing modes. There's Grand Prix and Time Trial for classic arcade experience, but there's also other game modes like Drive and Explode. Where Cruis'n Blast was all about the thrill, Hotshot Racing provides more of a technical arcade racing experience. Both games though, I highly recommend for the Switch. The next game is a much newer game than most games on this list. In fact, it's so new, it doesn't come out until Tuesday of this week. Now, I've been able to give Puzzle Bobble Everybubble a go thanks to NN Games prior to release, and I have loved it so far. It's the game that actually gave me the idea for this very video. Now, the Puzzle Bobble series is a spin-off series from Bubble Bobble that originally got started in the arcades. It has Bub and Bob popping bubbles with matching bubbles that they shoot from the machine. Players can choose which direction to fire, and bubbles will attach themselves to wherever they land. Match 3 or more of the same color, and they will pop. Often, especially in the later entries, there are other types of bubbles that can activate by popping bubbles around them to cause explosions, destroy all bubbles of the same color, create chain reactions, and more. Puzzle Bobble Everybubble attempts to recapture those early days with plenty of Puzzle Bobble goodness. There's tons of stages to play through in the story mode with the classic gameplay you know and love, plus EX versions of every stage you can unlock as you get 3 stars on each stage in each area of the map. The game is just as fun as the arcade games were. Multiplayer is here too. In the story mode, you can team with up to 4 other players on the same Switch as you take on stages and eventually aim to take down the Baron. Don't have friends? You can even add computer-controlled characters to play with you to try to bust those bubbles as fast as you can. Of course, there is versus mode too, if you want to challenge your bubble popping skills with others. On top of it all, there's yet another mode, the Puzzle Bobble vs Space Invaders mode, that has you trying to pop rows of aliens trapped in bubbles as fast as you can before they take you out. It's a nice nod and tribute to another of Taito's famous games. This is probably the best Puzzle Bobble game in decades. Hands down, I highly recommend this one when it comes out later this week if you're looking for a good arcade puzzler on the Switch. One of the heavy hitters for arcades in the 90s was SNK and their Metal Slug series, with over-the-top run-and-gun action and a gazillion bullets and a bit of humor, and at times being able to use some awesome vehicles too. The series was, and still is, a treat to play. Mighty Goose, published by Playism, is a game that is more than inspired by the Metal Slug series. Instead of a soldier, you take control of Mighty Goose and don some armor to kick the Void King and his minions' butts. Lots of intense shooting, lots of fun levels and bosses to face, and of course, various war vehicles to use to bring the pain. The game is a modern successor to the Metal Slug series, just with a goose. If it came out in the 90s, it would be remembered as one of the greatest arcade games for sure. I did review this game on the channel, so if you want a more in-depth look of what the game is about, make sure to check out the video review. But in short, I think the game is a must-own. It's one of my favorite indie games ever, and certainly captures the arcade spirit. Since we're at the halfway point of the video, take a moment to post down in the comments what are some of your favorite modern arcade games. I'm looking forward to reading those comments. Donut Dodo takes inspiration from early 80s classics and attempts to play just like it was an arcade game set in the early 80s, including elements from different single-screen arcade games like Donkey Kong and Popeye. It feels like a lost game that came from that era. In this game, you take control of Billy Baker Beans as he tries to collect the donuts while trying to avoid Donut Dodo's attacks and his minions. After collecting all the smaller donuts on the stage, you gotta nab the big one to complete the stage. I like how each board feels different from each other and includes a few different gimmicks for each one to spice things up. It's an addicting little game that's all about mastering the stages and getting that high score. Best of all, this game is cheap. It's only $5 at MSRP, so it makes for a good pickup for gamers on the cheap. Ninja JaJaMaru, the Great Yokai Battle, is a modern entry in the JaJaMaru-kun series that takes what made the original game so popular in Japanese arcades back in the 80s and gives it some nice modern touches. Now, it does play very similar to the original game. You jump and shoot while jumping through platforms in single-screen stages while trying to eliminate every enemy in each stage. Now, what it does do different is it allows you to play as various characters you unlock each with different stats and attacks. There's a ton of them to unlock, including other unlockables you can earn in the game. There's a lot of neat secrets to discover throughout the stages as you aim for the high score. The game even features 2-player co-op. It's a lot of fun, and I argue it's the best game in the entire series, with addictive gameplay that's perfect for short bursts or long game sessions. Check this one out, and Donut Dodo if you're a fan of the 80s era of arcade gaming. Super Hiking League DX is a modern arcade-like game where you race against another hiker, be it a computer-controlled hiker or another player, while trying to climb and swing your way as fast as you can in order to nab the gem in each stage. It's easy to play, you jump, have an attack button, and a rope button, and within a minute or two, you'll have the mechanics down. There's different characters to play as, plenty of stages to play through and unlock, and plenty of modes to enjoy. Just like Donut Dodo, this is a $5 game as well, another solid pickup for those looking for arcade fun on the cheap. The music game genre can trace its roots back to the arcades, particularly the late 90s to early 2000s era. The first Taiko no Tatsujin game came out in 2001, and the series is still going to this very day. The Switch has been blessed with 2 excellent games from the main series, in addition to some spin-off titles. They all retain the same easy-to-understand and play drumming fun with loads of songs to play, but are also filled with various minigame multiplayer modes that allow others to join in the fun. They are packed to the brim with content, and they are some of the best arcade fun you can have on the system without a doubt. Now, I can't do this video and not include a shooter of some sorts. I mean, the shoot 'em up genre was born in the arcades, and of course, there's many modern arcade shoot 'em ups coming out on the Switch and other consoles to this very day. Now, my favorite modern arcade shooter on the Switch has to be Cotton Fantasy. It's a horizontal shooter and just might be the best one in the Cotton series. Fun, fantastic stages with excellent gameplay are highlights, but what makes this game shine is the amount of variety. There's a ton of different characters to play as, each with very different mechanics and play styles. On top of that, there's stages to unlock, and each time you play, you can choose what stages to play and what order you want to play them in. Lots of shoot 'em ups are replayable by nature, but few do it with the amount of variety that Cotton Fantasy has. I love and I miss the arcades, but it's a good thing that there are modern games that are keeping the arcade spirit alive. Now, if you're looking for some arcade classics on Switch, well, I got you covered. I made a video covering some of my favorite classic arcade games on the console. I'll leave a link to that down below for you to check out, in addition to some other videos to check out if you're looking for some more arcade fun on the Switch. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and make sure to click that subscribe button, as I put out new videos each and every week, and you definitely don't want to miss a single one. Thank you so much for the support. Shout out to my Patreon and channel members for continuing to support this channel too. Much appreciated. But for now, that's all from me today. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.